Kymberly Clem here with Valor Homes Team. One of the things I wanted to do is to actually give you a backstory of our #1 buyer's agent on the team, Autumn Bishop. So it's not every day that you get the opportunity to learn about the agents. And so today I wanted to let Autumn share her story and journey in real estate with you, because whether you're struggling on thinking that you might be too young, you don't know how to dress, you don't drive the nice car, whatever it is that you're thinking, those limited beliefs, I have an agent here with me today who's consistently sold over 24 homes a year right out the gate that's going to change your mind on what you can do. Autumn, thank you so much for the opportunity today. Could you just share with them some of your struggles as a real estate agent, as well as what you've overcome in your life that's helped you be the person you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing when it comes to being a real estate agent, if you're young, you're going to have struggles. You're going to meet people that maybe they're as old as your parents or more. They might make comments to you like, you're as old as my grandchild, you know. It happens, and I think that those are limited beliefs that you kind of have to just learn the confidence to be able to go in and know that you know your stuff the best and that you can be the best realtor for them. So the biggest thing that I definitely think I had to change from a new agent to now is how I dressed and then the car I drove. I know a lot of people might say that the car you drive doesn't matter, or you know, how you dress doesn't matter.
Yeah, so one thing I want to ask you is, like, when you first got started, what did you drive?
Yeah, so I drove a 2016 Chevy Cruze. Nothing wrong with the car at all, but it's hard to meet people and then them kind of take you as serious and to know that you have their best interest if you don't meet the standard that you're kind of portraying to them.
So sorry to interrupt you, but let's go back to that. Let's talk about, you know, when you're a new agent, you don't have much money, you know? So there are a few things that I remember and I want to talk about, which is one, I'll never forget the Cash App conversation. Do you mind to share with them what it looks like to really care and want to make it in real estate? So on Valor Homes Team, one thing you should know is I'm very military, and fair to say that my standards are pretty high, right?
Yes.
So I'll never forget one time when Autumn called me, and well, I'll let you tell them about the Cash App and, you know, the gas situation, just so they understand, and then we'll go back to the car.
Yeah, so when I first started, it was pretty strict on, you got to be in the office. I didn't have the heart to tell Kymberly that I drained my bank account on putting it all into real estate to get my license and to get going, because I wanted to make it proud. With that being said, there's definitely a time that I literally drained my bank account, went to the gas station, did not have the gas to make it home that day. Keep in mind, I was also 20 and in college, and I had to call my mom and I asked her to get the Cash App account so that way she could send me the $5 that it sends her, and then she can send me the $5 that it sent me. I put $10 in my gas tank that day, made it home, and then the next day I figured it out again.
I mean, that's hustle. Like, I don't know how you are doing it, but if you're sitting at home right now saying you don't have the money, I want you to understand it's a mindset. Autumn always amazes me with exactly what she's overcome. Going back to that Chevy Cruze, you worked really, really hard until you had enough money to buy another car. Fair to say, you were still overcoming it. I know that you had told me, like, you were parking down the street. You were doing different things. One of the things we always joke about is, like, if your car looks like a trash can, nobody should be seeing it. How many times do you walk by a really nice car and you look in and you're like, ooh, they must have 5 kids, right? We understand what comes with it, but fair to say that all the way up until you could afford to buy a nicer car, you were able to make it work.
Absolutely, and I did make it work, and you know, to me, I just made sure that I was more knowledgeable so it didn't affect me. Like I said, I drove a Chevy Cruze, nothing wrong with it, but to meet those standards that some people just have of you, when they meet you, they think highly of you, you have to meet those standards, or to them, they might just not take you as seriously. So that's why I bought my 2021 Lexus.
On her 21st birthday, must I add. Super huge accomplishment. When we talk about your journey, you know, I'm always just overwhelmed with joy, because you do have a backstory, and I'd love for you to share that with them. Just about how, honestly, sometimes people think it's about who you are and what you're willing to overcome. And I think that people sometimes see real estate agents and they think, oh, it was handed to them, or they come from money, or things like that, and they don't really understand. Is it fair to say that, Autumn, most of your family didn't want you to stay in real estate?
Absolutely. So when I first got started, even telling people that, you know, I was going to continue my degree, but that I was going to jump into real estate, everyone was like, like, I just don't think so. It was out of the comfort zone that my family and friends back home considered was a good idea for me. When I got started, even in the beginning when I first struggled, and even though I was still selling homes, you know, it is a struggle. It's a different kind of career that most people think of.
You have to have balance, right?
Yeah,
and structure, and
yeah.
By the way, you wake up unemployed every day, like it's a real thing.
And I think that was the biggest adjustment. So like, you don't have a stable income. Like, you have to work hard, you have to hustle to get that money. And to them, they were like, I just don't think it's a safe bet. I mean, 3 years later, my family is saying the opposite.
Yeah.
They're very happy for me and glad that I'm here.
How did you get past that? What did you do as a younger, new agent? You know, how did you know not to listen to them? Because I remember there were a few times where people told you to go back to a 9-to-5 and hey, you can do real estate on the side. Tell me how you kind of got through some of those things.
Yeah, so I think that it was mainly because I'm a really big person on going all in on something. If you're gonna spend money, if you're gonna even put your time and education for it, you have to go all in. If you're not going all in, you're not gonna make it. And that's just my point of view. I also think life is short, so take the chances, and worst case, I knew that if a year later, if it wasn't working out for me, life's not over. I can start something else. Luckily for me, it worked out amazing. It's probably the best decision I've made in my life. It's changed my life. So I think that was the biggest mindset, was you have to do it.
Yeah. Now tell me, in today's market, you know, you have a lot of agents quitting. And so you have a lot of agents who would ask you a few things. The first thing they would say is, if you've been so successful in 3 years, why are you still on a real estate team, and why haven't you made that journey to go solo?
Definitely a big question that people ask. A lot of people, they join teams in the beginning, learn anything they can, and then they leave the team. For me, I joined a team that it's my family and friends. Like, Kymberly's my best friend in life. So it's not just, I'm not just joining a team for the education. The education's a plus, but there's more to it. Teams have benefit. It's not just about the financial part of it, but if you find a team that is truly there for you in your hardest times, you won't leave it. You just don't see that as an option. And honestly, when it comes to quitting anything, it's not an option. Quitting's not an option for me. I just have to find a new way to do it, make it successful.
Well, you know, one of the things I just want to bring up, because it could be a huge deal when people say, well, it's not quitting, it would be you making 100% of commission, right? It's you getting promoted to a solo agent. That's what people think. But we've seen multiple people come and go on our team, and it's always so funny to me because Autumn is always watching closely. And I think that's awesome because you're watching, doing due diligence, right? And with that being said, when I'm traveling and I'm at all of these conferences and I meet somebody and they tell me, hey, Kymberly, you know, I don't want to join a team because I'm not going to give up 50% of my proceeds. One thing I always tell them is, you're making nothing right now. You have 100% of nothing, or you could go making in, let's say you started your first month, you were selling 2 out the gate. So 24 homes in her first year, made $120,000, I think. So $120,000, and that was at 50%. So if you don't have the resources, the training, or oh, by the way, we have a 5-man staff team, the question I would ask you is it worth it to pay 50% when you have no money, you cannot make anything? So I think that's a really big thing for me, is that, you know, a lot of times people don't understand the value of the team leader who's already went through and done all of the hard work. When you hear my stories of the things that I've done, you know, there were a lot of lessons that I learned the hard way, and you don't have to learn today.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that when it comes to, yes, people say you'd make 100% of the money, but realistically, that's not true. Yes, you could make 100% of your commission, but at the same time, you have to think about what a team leader like puts in, the money wise. Unless you have that money, you're not going to sell as many houses. So you might get 100% of the commission, but if you're only selling 1 house versus 4 or 5 on a team, you're still making less money. I think that they don't really see the value sometimes in a team, and there's more to it than just the finance side. But even on like the mistakes that you've made, when I have a fire to put out, I can call Kymberly. I don't have to figure it out myself and like, you know, and mess up possibly. You kind of are there to always help on the back end of everything too.
And let's not forget, at the end of the day, we're friends. I kind of joke and say, as adults, it's really hard to have friends. And sometimes people say, oh, of course the team leader is going to be your friend because you're making money. But let's just be honest. Autumn was at my wedding. We've kind of built a friendship. We started investing together. If you join the right team, I can guarantee you that the financial aspect is not the main point of it. The relationship and the things that you will do. Real estate can be a lonely atmosphere unless you choose to do different. The other thing I just want to talk about really quick as we wrap up here today is, you've been through a few markets, right? When you first came in, it was what we would consider a normal market. So, you know, really absolutely it was both buyer and sellers. And then we went through COVID, which, let's just be honest, it was crazy. And now here we are. what advice would you give based on what you've learned and having the team support to an agent right now that's struggling, whether they're a solo agent or on a team?
Yeah, so I think you have to adjust. You have to adjust to the markets. You can't do the same things that you were doing. If you started 3 years ago like I did, you can't do the same things you were doing then as you're doing now. Every time we're in a market shift, you have to learn how to adjust to that new market and kind of get comfortable with change. And that's one thing that I think I struggle with, is getting comfortable with change. But you have to figure out the ways you can. Reach out to your mentor, team leader, whoever it may be. See what they're doing. What's working, what's not working. If you haven't read the book, there's a book called The Shift. It's definitely helpful. Probably one of the most impactful books that I've read in my career. It definitely talks about, you know, what you used to do and the mindset you used to have versus now what you have to have as a mindset. You also have to remember that if you're wanting to stay in this business, like I said before, you can't just give up. You can't just, when it gets a little bit hard, it's like, oh, I'll throw in the towel. You have to put in 10 times more effort and hustle to make sure that you're still meeting your numbers and what's important to you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story here today. I'm hoping that it helps a new agent out there, or maybe even an established agent who's just kind of getting burnt out. It's safe to say that we have both been in that position at the 2-year mark where we just don't want to sell real estate. We've probably thought about quitting a million times. Even though we say quitting isn't really an option, there are definitely days where I wake up, tie my hair up, and think, I don't want to do this. What else can I do? But the reality is, I will tell you that we love what we do. That by Tuesday, after a long Monday, we get back to the basics and we are here to help you. So if you're a real estate agent and you're going through any of this, if you're worried about the market that we're about to enter, if you have any questions, concerns, or just need a friend because you don't have somebody, we would love to be that person for you. Thanks so much for your time today, and we hope you learned something.